had never criticized the left for doing almost the exact same thing, then it would be fine to remain neutral here and not to call this out. But because when the left did it, you called it out, then it makes you hypocritical to not say anything when it's the right doing it. It makes you a hypocrite to not call them out for the same thing. Because you should be against it whenever anyone does it. Therefore, if the right does it as well, you should call it out as well. Instead of making a video where you pretend to remain neutral, but you use slight apologetics for it and suggest that, well, maybe we should do it as well. Maybe our side should use it as well. That is the very definition of hypocritical.
My decision, right? I'm just going to sit neutral on it. Like a vegetable and vegetate. I'm not going to get into it. And you don't like that, right? Because you want me to act like part of your tribe. You want me to point at the evil right-winger and go, not fair. Freedom of speech. No, absolutely.
I want you to be consistent. I want you, and you don't have to do this. You don't have to do this, but it does make you a hypocrite not to. Yes, it does, in my opinion. Yes, it does.
Right? So he goes on with the common insults. It's like, you're being a mindless tribalistic idiot. Like, whose tribe am I even following at this point? It's bad when they do it, but good when we do it because we're the good guys and they're the bad guys. So the definition we're right and whatever we do was good. You're being a fucking idiot. Okay, so let me explain it to you. Maybe I need to go like on Fox News, and have like the blackboard where you have like all the conspirations that lead towards Obama, or maybe like on the left side, you know, where you have like the ties between Donald Trump and Russia with the blackboard in the back. I saw all the cool people do it on TV. Now I don't have a blackboard, but I have a notepad, right? So there is a simple question. Is it okay for events to be shut down because a person is offended, right? This is the question that we have to answer, right? And the problem is that right now this is the norm, right? Right now in the current culture, this is what's considered acceptable. So in the current culture, the answer is yes, it is acceptable for events to be shut down because a person is offended, right? Now I hate this. How do I change it, right? That's the question that we need to ask. So the answer is two ways. One, I can talk against it, which I have been doing for several years, right? So this is a very useful way of handling this. However, when I talk against it, do you know what happens? That's right. Someone is going to find what I am saying offensive, and I am going to get this magical thing called a community strike. This is what I get when I do this, right? And then I have to challenge the community strike and wait like 3 weeks until the appeal goes through while having my heart in my neck going like, oh God, like fucking channel. But, okay, I am still doing this. Like, I am at point one. Even though I'm getting community strikes, I am still at point one. Now, there are other people who can choose a different method that sometimes I choose it myself, which is number two, be offended at when they are doing events. And by they, I mean the people who support number one. So the people who are okay with this, when they are doing an event, you are going to be offended because talking against it is unacceptable under this rule. So holding people accountable to the own rules that they have made is going to be more effective sometimes, not all times, than just talking against it. Right? Because when you are offended...
No, it's not more effective, and the reason why it is not more effective is because no one likes those tactics. People turn against the SJWs because they use those tactics. When you use those tactics, all you are doing is making yourself look like an asshole, making your side of the argument look like assholes. When you use the tactics that they use that are disfavored by any person that is not already in their camp, you hurt, you damage your own side. It is not an effective tactic. And yes, you got a wrongful community strike. I don't disagree with that. But you know what? You do sometimes, you have to accept that if I do this, this may happen. This could be and getting a community strike, you know how censorious these people are. You know how big of assholes these people can be. You know that they use these tactics. So, yes, when you make videos against them, you accept the risk that they could do a community strike against you, for example, that they could use these tactics against you. That is not a good reason to use those tactics. If you believe that those tactics are wrong, and then you turn around and use those same tactics, you do those same things that you criticize them for doing, that you think are wrong when they do them, then you are being a hypocrite. Then you are holding a double standard, one for yourself and one for your enemies. I do not believe in double standards. I try to remain consistent. I try not to be a hypocrite. Now, not always do I succeed, but I don't purposely try to use the tactics that I criticize.
They have no answer. They can't shut you down because the law doesn't allow you to be shut down. So what will happen eventually is that the people who made this rule are going to have a choice, which is going to be choice A, allow the rule to continue while having their own discussions stopped, which is something that probably they don't want because now it's being used against them, or B, which is hopefully what they are going to do, decide that people being offended is an unacceptable reason to shut down events. And when B starts being the cultural norm, it wouldn't matter if I keep getting butthurt at their events, because they would not stop them, because now it's a new cultural norm. I can't even believe I have to explain rules for radicals to morons, because they just say, oh, well, it's hypocritical. It's not hypocritical to play by the rules of the game. If this is the rule that the game is being played under, then having to drive the point by playing under the same rules and showing them the consequences until they change the rules to something acceptable is by no way something that's hypocritical. Because I wouldn't do it to other people who have nothing in this, right? I wouldn't do it to someone, for instance, who is against the idea of having hate speech laws and shit like that, right?
How do you know that the people that put on that play all believed in that? You seem to be assuming that those people believe in those tactics. Why? Those people were there to put on a show that was not anti-Trump and was, in fact, if you know the story of the play they were putting on, was anti-assassination of political leaders, anti-political violence. That the idiot from fucking the Rebel Media got triggered is no reason to go on stage and make an ass of himself. He had no right to do that. Just like an SJW has no right to do that, would have no right to do that. That stage was not there for him.
Anyway, let's see what else this gentleman has said. Or we could just continue to speak out against it. Yeah, I did. I got community strikes. And I'm still speaking out against it.
And I'm sorry you got a community strike. I am sorry that you got a community strike, but as I said before, you accept the risk that that is a potentiality. You accept the risk that that could happen when you go up against people that use tactics like that.
Notice how I'm not stopping any events, right? Notice how I'm not trying to shut down. I'm not on Get Racist Fire blog trying to dox those artists. Did you notice that? Did that escape you, huh? Because, by the way, when you do this, it doesn't mean you have to be like them and do like socially unacceptable tactics, because there are some socially unacceptable tactics. I think, for instance, doing violence in order to achieve your goals is something socially unacceptable that I would never do. I think that trying to get people fired for things that have nothing to do with their job is something socially unacceptable that I would never do. I think providing people's full address, phone number and all, so you can find them in real life and beat the shit out of them if you politically disagree with them, is something unacceptable. However, I don't think going on a theater for 30 seconds and voicing your concerns is something unacceptable. I think that...
And I do. And the reason I think that is because that could lead to two outcomes. One, you've ruined the experience of the person that paid money in order to get to see the show,